As a film critic, it is important to analyze the film with the utmost dignity, professionalism, and emotional restraint. It's over. I don't want it to be over. I don't want you to be over, Toothless.
The hidden world. It really does exist.
Now that's a king.
You're right, bud. It's time. Well, look who it is. Not a word.
How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. It is the concluding chapter of the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and it's kind of astounding that we're at this point, particularly when we recall when the trailer dropped for the first movie, no one knew what to expect of it. We thought it was going to be just a silly Dreamworks animation film, because Dreamworks does have not as glorious a history as, say, Disney or Pixar. But the fact that we're here now, and the fact that we are so sad that this saga is coming to a close, that says a lot for how well all three films have been made by the director, Dean Dubois. I am sorry if I butchered that. The real question is, does it meet the expectations? This is the ending that, unfortunately, any savvy filmgoer is going to know is the way it needs to end, but that doesn't mean we have to like it. The fact of the matter is, we knew that this is the way it was going to have to end, and I think the reason why we wouldn't want it to end is just because we know that it is going to lead to an incredible emotional gut punch. The film doesn't hold back on that. If you loved the first two movies, and if you love these characters, and if you love the world of Berk, you are really it's really going to hurt to see all this come to the inevitable conclusion that we kind of sensed was the way it was going to have to end, especially the way How to Train Your Dragon 2 ended. Suffice to say, if you are passionate about this trilogy, bring a tissue. That's all I'm going to have to say. Get a couple napkins from the concession stand. You're going to need them, because I was a mess at the very end. And the fact that I was a mess, in lieu of the fact that I had a feeling that this is the way it was going to end, particularly when the trailers dropped about the idea of a world that was going to be a refuge for dragons, I was like, ooh, yeah, I have a feeling where this is going, and I have a feeling I'm going to be a mess. And I was. You're going to get what you want when it comes to the emotional impact, but that is not to say that it isn't a load of fun. It is still really funny. I'd say the comedic highlights are all the stuff where, Toothless is trying to get his poontang with the Light Fury. The animation work, giving life to these dragons, making them actually feel like animals that probably could exist with us in the real world. I'm floored. I'm always floored whenever I see the way they animate these dragons and give them such personality. You really wish that this could be the world. And when you think about that mindset, it all leads to what makes this such an affecting finale, because the whole point of this whole movie is about the truth, the hard truth, that mankind as a whole are not ready for the extraordinary world that Hiccup and his team and the community of Berk were trying to cultivate. The idea that we could, through commitment, dedication, we could progress, we could evolve, we could get to know other people from other creatures from other worlds, other communities, and create something far more beautiful and something far more harmonious and something far more idyllic. This conclusion is something that has been cultivated throughout the three films, particularly in the second one, where you had a villain who was hell-bent to wrangle the dragons, basically take all the things that Hiccup learned in training dragons, but unfortunately exploiting them to turn dragons into an army. Well, this film with the villain actually represents the complete opposite. This is about people who just absolutely refuse to grow, who absolutely refuse to go beyond this ideal that they have set for themselves, where they believe that they are the superior being. Yeah, you could say that the villain of this piece, Grimmel, played by F. Murray Abraham, is something of a Hitler figure or a Trump figure who refuses to grow beyond what they believe that they could. They believe that they are the perfection, that they are the peak, they are the ultimate of development, and that there is no point of going beyond that. Now, normally, a villain like this would be something of a detriment, because you don't know anything about him, you don't know his history, you don't know anything beyond the fact that he's just a really damn good dragon hunter, and not even a dragon hunter that trains them, but kills them, and if he can use them, will use their own natural attributes against them and turn them into puppets. I mean, at least the villain in the other one was still all about having a symbiotic relationship with dragons. But this one just says, if I can use them, I'm going to use them. But in the end, I'm going to kill them. And that's the sickening part of him. The villain is disgusting. The villain is just an abhorrent character, and a lot of that comes with the writing, and it comes from the performance by F. Murray Abraham. Yeah, we don't have much of his background, but we do have one vital thing. All of this came about because he made a decision. And the sick part is, it's the same decision Hiccup made in the first movie when he first met Toothless. I'm not going to get into it, but when you find out what that decision was, you immediately realize that this villain represents what Hiccup could have become if he had just stuck to the traditions of Berk when it came to the relationship between man and dragon. But because Hiccup made the decision he made, led them down this other path. And, of course, made Berk a better place because of his tenacity to help people understand the relationship between man and dragon. But what's fascinating about this film is that it's not about trying to cultivate that world even further and Hiccup trying to make the entire world understand. It's about the tragic truth that mankind is not ready for the beautiful gift that Hiccup was trying to create for this world, and about the fact that man may never, ever be ready for it. It's bittersweet, but it's also extremely tragic. And the fact that the director had no problem giving us this uncompromising ending is something to be praised. Now, this film is not by any means a totally serious affair. It is still extremely funny. Like I said, all the interactions with Toothless, with the Light Fury are great. All the Dragon Riders. I know some have found the other characters irritating. I honestly have always been very charmed by them. I always thought they were fun little characters, and it has been fun seeing them grow. And actually, one of the things I've noticed has been something that's been carried over through all of them is seeing how these characters have grown into adulthood. How some actually have become a bit more uninhibited compared to where they were. And if you've known these characters, you know that sometimes being uninhibited is not a good thing. Particularly Rough Nut, played by Kristen Wiig, has some of the best comedic moments, particularly in her interactions with the main villain. That is great. And some of the characters who had some spotlight in previous films, they don't get as much play this time around, particularly Volker, played by Cate Blanchett, and Eret. But even then, they still contribute something towards motivating the characters that we're trying to focus on a bit more profoundly. The film keeps its focus where it needs to, on Hiccup, on Toothless, and even to an extent on Hiccup with his relation to Astrid, and in turn, how that goes into his responsibilities as the chief of Berk. And really, the core of this movie is all about the fact that both of them, Hiccup and Toothless, have responsibility to their own kind, which, because they've been so invested in each other, they realize they have ignored those responsibilities, and they need to focus on that. There's not really much in the way of surprises when it comes to the story as a whole. Really, the only things that are really surprising is just the way the characters interact with each other, whether it be comedically or dramatically. But in the end, you know where the story goes. And I'd say that's the real con of this film, is that it's predictable. The conclusion is what you'd expect it to be. But because you are able to anticipate that this is where the story is going to go, and you get the feeling that the filmmakers know that you know, they have figured out a way to build up the anticipation and even the trepidation to get to this point, and they mine that inevitability to its emotional peak. So that definitely is a big save, because most of the time when a movie's predictable, the filmmaker is not savvy enough to pick up on that. But the fact that this director was able to achieve that goal and help us get to that point and still be emotionally compromised when we get to that point is something to admire. The animation is par excellence. It is still gorgeous. The production design takes it up a notch even more so here. We go beyond Berk. We actually get to see new lands, new areas, new everything. They still up the ante, and all of that aids the story. It's not there for spectacle. It's all there to aid in the characters that we have grown to love throughout this trilogy. I would actually safely say this is DreamWorks' Toy Story. This is their flagship franchise, right next to Toy Story. As much as I want there to be another one, just because I love it so much, fortunately we do have the TV series, which from what I hear is spectacular. I wouldn't want them to spoil what they achieved with this finale, and I'm happy and I'm content with where it's ended up. I feel like I'm having a hard time saying goodbye to an old friend, so I'm just going to leave it with a narcotic casserole rating of Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that its predictability made this a mediocre finale? Or is this the finale that you really didn't want to see coming because you love this franchise so much? Leave it all in the comments below. And for more addictive content and Narcotic Casserole, simply like, share, subscribe, click, thou shalt be served.
Show them what you got, bud.
Save him. It's you and me, bud. Always.
You hear from me. You would always be here for me. Will you? You're not just gonna leave for Poontang? I mean, if it's Poontang, I can't stop you.